Hey, good evening to you. Happy Friday, guys. Oh, today we have a brand new guest speaker who goes by the name of Tamara. She is a practitioner, hypnosis, yoga, healing, and so much more. So, whilst I bring Tamara all the way in, here we go. It's that Friday feeling, guys. Let's see if I can come get you. Oh,
Hello.
that was such a smooth entry there. No issues. Great.
No issues.
Hi,
Aw,
how are you? Well, first of
hello.
all, welcome, Tamara. I'm going to
Thank
need
you.
your help in pronouncing your name, your surname,
Sure. So it's Tamara Herskovic.
Herskovic. Yeah?
Herskovic. I used to be Tamara Andrews, and then I
Oh,
got married, and now I have to
oh.
spell it out for everybody.
Oh, so I mean, I've become really bad in the last 2 years because I meet so many people in general that I just can't fathom the names. What an interesting surname. Wow. Ooh, let's take a moment. So let's start with welcome. And
Thank you.
guys, this beautiful lady is a practitioner of hypnosis, yoga, healing within different dynamics we're going to discuss today, and so much more. So today we're just going to unlayer this beautiful specimen of a woman. Yeah.
Thank
Her
you.
gifts,
Thank
her
you.
profession, and elements of who she is as a soul. How does that sound to you?
It sounds wonderful, and thank you for having
Yes.
me.
Oh, you're so welcome. So let's begin with a little bit of a warm-up zone. I do this with everybody. This kind of random, interesting, I would say, introduction question. So let's start with, how did you spend your day today before coming onto this live?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
It's like that.
do you know the feeling of when you ask for something? Maybe it's the universe, maybe it's God, maybe it's whomever, and you really want it so much, and then it happens, and you're like, no,
Oh,
it's happening. So
oh, wow.
I spent the morning having family conversations, and I'm so grateful for it. But it
Oh,
wasn't how I was expecting to spend my time. And again, it's such a gift. And whenever we're given these opportunities to heal
ooh, I think I
trauma,
know where you're going with this. Yeah, yeah.
and sometimes why I don't,
Mhm.
it's always hardest with the ones that's our family, right? It's like we're so
Mhm.
close to them, but sometimes we can't always be seen. And so breaking down um, the agreements that were made for us that no longer serve us. Yeah. So,
Ooh.
you know,
There's so, I mean, you said so little, but so much in that meaning of that snapshot
yeah,
without going into obviously, details for yourself. But I hope that the conversation dynamics, upon reflection and time, will put the pieces together and obviously drain the areas that you want to filter and be in peace.
I hope so
It's not
too.
easy that. So you must have. I mean, how do you feel? Because sometimes we go through things in a day, and it kind of shakes us, and you feel like, oh God, I really committed to doing this live or going to this event. Do I really want to go? Did you have that feeling at all today? Because that's natural after certain talks
Oh
or going
yeah,
through it. You know.
absolutely. Absolutely. Like
Mm.
we each have these appointments that we made, and we had those
Mhm.
choices. Like, are we going to
Mhm.
continue? Like, what's important? What's a priority? And
Mhm.
sometimes that means disappointing other people.
Oh
But
yeah.
again,
Oh
like,
yes.
how much longer can you disappoint yourself by not making the time?
Yes, I call it betraying myself. Do I betray myself or do I just satisfy you? And that's a hard one. But thank you for being here because it could have been a moment where you chose just to create space for yourself and
Yeah.
I would have understood. No,
Oh,
honestly,
I appreciate that, but it was all
literally.
divine timing, and
Okay.
so I'm happy to be here.
Oh, welcome, welcome. Okay, so let's get into your official warm-up zone. Who are you as a soul? Tell us a little bit of elements of who you are.
Um, so My soul is it's infinite, and it goes beyond this life. It goes beyond this moment. And I also believe that we have so many dimensions of ourselves, literal dimensions, and then layers within ourselves. And so who I am is this divine oneness, as in it is the same for you and everyone else here. Um,
Mhm.
and it's love, and it's a lot of shadow work, and um it's beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fabulous. What is your origin? We hear this fabulous American accent. Tell us a bit
Mhm.
about where you were born or your family's from.
Mm. Yeah, so I am from a suburb of Chicago, grew up in the
Nice.
suburb of Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went to Wisconsin, which is
Mm-hmm.
north of Chicago, about
Mm-hmm.
8 hours. And I went there for school, and then I lived in Chicago proper after. And now I am up in Wisconsin full time now. And
What's it like there?
um, so we kind of we brag about being the vacation land. So a lot of people from the cities like to come here and vacation. And
Oh,
lots of natural resources, woods and
oh my
lakes,
God. Woods
and
and lakes. Oh, my kind of language. I love it.
yes,
Oh.
yes. And then we have about 5 to 6 months of winter,
Oh.
which makes our summers really mild and beautiful and
Oh,
green
wow.
and luscious. So, yeah, it's the Midwest for sure.
So you like living there. You enjoy the environment, the vibration, the energy of the whole. Yeah.
um, so I would say most of the time. I
That's
would say
good.
most of the time. I'd say that, I think it was Wayne Dyer who was talking, like he was walking on the beach and someone came up to him and said, "What's it like living in Hawaii?" And he would
Oh.
say, "Well, what's it like living where you live?" And then the person would be like, "Oh, it's great. It's this. The people are nice." Da, da, da. He's like, "Yeah, it's the same here." And then the next person would ask him, "What's it like living in Hawaii?" And he would say, "Well, what's it like living where you live?" And like, "Oh, it's terrible and the people are terrible." And he's like, "Yeah, it's like that here." Because everywhere you
Ah.
go, you are.
Mm.
Um, but with that being said, we do enjoy traveling and,
Mhm.
changing scenery and getting warm
Yes, well,
when it
Hawaii,
comes back to,
Hawaii's on my bucket list. Funny you should mention
oh,
that. So yeah.
mine too.
Oh
Such
my
good
God.
energy. It's
It,
sacred.
it's so nice. Okay, so let me ask you a few more warm-up questions. What is your favorite pastime?
Mm. What do I do for fun? I love
Don't
learning.
actually, it doesn't have to be fun. It just that's why I didn't specify it. Like
Oh,
it
it's
can
so
be,
true.
it could be literally a cup of tea sat against a freaking plant in your back garden. It could be whatever you find the most enjoyable pastime.
So I do enjoy gardening. I was
Ah,
shown in one of my past life regressions that
mm,
whenever I am in my garden and whenever I am tending to the earth, that my
mm,
guides will take that as an invitation for them to be with me and to sort of do their own tune-ups on me. So
wow.
I do find great peace when I'm working with my garden. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's fabulous.
Mm.
And if you was to pick a color, what color would you say so far in your existence describes you and why?
Yeah, purple. I love purple. I
Ooh,
know
the
I
color
watched
of
one of your
royalty and
past
healing.
interviews where you were
Mhm.
coming to a new relationship with the color purple,
Oh,
but I
did you
just
see that?
love it. I did.
I was
I
going
did.
to
I was
wear
like,
it
oops,
today with purple glasses, and I thought, oh, not today. I
I,
love you last week, but not today.
oh,
I got this thing with it. I don't know what's going on with me, girl.
yeah. I love, love, love purple.
It's
I just,
beautiful, really, isn't it?
it really is. And I feel like there's a part of many of us growing up that we have to grow out of the color purple, that it's
Go out of
too.
it. I'm just
Yeah, like
growing
it's
into
too
it. Hold
much.
on.
Like, like it's serious. But I love the color purple. Yeah.
Oh my, yeah, I'm so into it. I mean, everything goes, the lipstick, everything. I go all the way in, and I'm like, oh, I don't fancy the next year. I've got this thing going. I don't know what's going on with me. Who knows? But red is always my go-to with everything. I've got lots of red and oranges,
But
but I'm the kind of person.
you rocked the purple lipstick. Yeah, you rocked it for sure.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right. So, let me see. What shall I? Aha. If you were to choose two celebrities to have drinks, dinner, or tea with, who would it be and why?
Okay, Prince, hand down.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, yes. I might even take a second helping of Prince.
Oh,
But it would probably be Prince and Oprah.
Oprah for sure. Come on. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's one of mine for sure. Yeah.
yeah, Prince and Oprah.
Tell me
Um,
why.
well, I mean, Oprah is the adversity that she has worked through and the way that she's determined to shine and to bring help and
Mm-hmm.
awareness to others. I
Yeah.
really appreciate her willingness to show up and take up space.
Oh,
Um, yeah. And Prince, oh man, I love his music as a kid growing up and listening to Prince. I didn't know what he was talking about, but it,
you like the energy.
with the energy, and then when I was a grown person, I'm like, now I know what he's talking about. And the energy, yes.
The purple rain and whatever else. Yeah.
Oh. Um, so I
Nice.
think, yeah, I saw Prince many times in
Oh,
concert,
really?
and he was an amazing artist and a beautiful soul. So yeah,
How many times have you seen him live?
I saw him 4 times,
Oh, you love
and
him. You love him.
yeah, and one of the times his concerts were most of them you first come first serve, so you'd get in line with all these other people that adored him, and you would get really close to the stage. So two of those times I was belly up to the stage,
Oh,
and
wow.
his music is just so, it just transcends. Like, it doesn't matter who is around you, you're all friends, and it was so
It must be
beautiful.
lovely to actually watch Prince perform. It must be quite, yeah, I can imagine. Can only imagine
Yeah.
what that was like. So
Yeah.
I have one more warm-up
Hmm.
question for you before we get into your layers of what you do.
Sure.
Um, if you could change anything about yourself, just one thing, if any, what would
Mm.
it be?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Mhm.
I would say that I would want to be even maybe more receptive to receiving criticism.
Mm.
I think that would be one, because the willingness to be open and hear what people are asking and wanting to say, and then being
Mm.
discerning enough to say this is the truth or not, and then move on. I think there's great value in that, and there's lots of growth there as well.
Wow, wonderful. I'm going to do something random in the middle of your warm-up questions, and I'm going to ask you, is there anything you'd like to ask me?
Ooh,
Oh, let me give up a
what
little bit of
is,
power. Sonny, right?
guys?
Is there absolutely
Uh,
anything random that
yes.
when
So
my spirit speaks to me, I act upon it. So I'm going to ask you that.
I love it. So do you identify as an introvert or an extrovert?
Can't you tell? All right.
Because
um,
the reason I ask is often a lot of us we seem extroverted, and then
mm.
when we don't, we turn into this introvert. And so I'm curious if that's the same with you.
That's so interesting. So you don't take my exterior as gospel. And that's actually brilliant. I thought about that because I used to have a friend that said she was both, and I was like, how can you be both? But clearly you can. It's not a word that I actually ever use in my vocabulary, even though it exists.
Sure.
But if I must reflect on it, I have to say I'm an extrovert, but I'm also a popular loner. That's so whack, isn't it? As an answer, but
Yes.
it's the truth.
It
Yeah, but
takes
it's the
a lot of
truth. It's actually
it
the
takes
truth. Like,
yes. It takes a
can
lot
you?
of energy
Mhm,
to put yourself out there, and it sounds like you
mhm,
need a lot of time also just
mhm.
to turn inward as well. And
I love
yeah,
my own company. I'm always saying
yeah.
that. So to define your question, I would say I'm an extrovert naturally. So I'm naturally talkative in general, but yet I like a lot of quiet. So those who see me every day would never imagine that I live very quiet because I'm always talking.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm
that's what I thought.
extremely quiet. And that's because I do so much interaction and I love meeting new people and I love discovering people as I discover myself. But yeah, I would say that I'm an extrovert, but also balance of being a popular loner. I say popular because it doesn't seem like I'm a loner because I'm quite giving of self, but I do take a lot of time with self, unapologetically in quietude. I relish quietude. So I think I've got a balance, but I don't think people, they wouldn't realize that. It's
It's
a very,
yeah.
yeah.
I think the more of us that share how much self-care
Hmm.
and quiet time is
Hmm.
okay, and you use the word unapologetic. I think that's perfect because I don't think enough of us give ourselves what we need in order to
Yeah.
show up for others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like once I'm home, I'm very really on my phones. I would do a lot of networking, but no way. As a young girl, maybe in my 20s, yeah, but once I finish work or I finish my friends group, I go home and I don't really want to hear from anybody unless it's enlightenment, unless it's an
Yeah.
event. I literally segregate my mind. I have this rule of people don't contact me after 12 p.m. and before 10 a.m. If you want to contact me anytime, go on social media. I'm very rigid in my everyday personal life. So hope that
Good
answers
for
your
you.
question.
Yeah, those are good boundaries to have.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very, very bound in that way. I'm not. I can't continue to constantly be,
Mm.
outpouring. But hey, enough about me. All about you. I'm glad you got to ask your question. I just felt like there was something you might want to ask me, so I just thought I'd create a little bit of space.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, let's get into you, Missy. Oh, hypnosis, Reiki,
Mm.
yoga, and healing, and so much more. Let's start with, how did you even embark upon the first step to any of these practices? What
Mm.
happened? Where, what, how? Tell me about it.
Uh,
What
yes.
inspired
Okay.
you?
So it started with yoga, and I was interested in yoga. I loved the poses. I loved how I felt during
Hmm.
class. I loved how I felt after class. And I thought it would be good. And then I was actively working through an eating disorder,
Ah.
and a lot of the Yoga Sutras, a lot of the the heart of yoga is healing the body. You know, often like when
Mm.
we see a lot of yoga poses are actually meant for building up, like it was an answer to health problems like breathing, asthma. So we're going to build up
Mm.
the chest muscles and we're going to expand so that you
Okay.
can take a deeper breath, and so I thought there is more to yoga than physical. We know that actually yoga is meant so that we can sit in meditation comfortably.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if I could get to that point where I was finding peace within my mind around my body, then why not do more of it? And why not dedicate more time and then help others to do it as well?
That
So,
sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. So it was
thank
upon
you.
reflection that led you to that road. So you
Yes.
mentioned eating disorder. That's something you want to explore on today's talk, or do you want to just go straight into your practices?
Oh, either. I am fine. Yeah, I am
Yeah,
fine with either. But yeah, so really it
tell
comes
us
down
about that.
to,
Mhm.
yeah, it comes down to, so first of all, when we think about yoga, a lot of us think about tiny white women on their mats, looking good with their pants and their, the gear.
Wait,
And
wait, repeat that for me. When people think of yoga, they imagine what did you say?
most people think of skinny white women that,
Really?
at least here in the US, yes, and that
I
is
think
shifting.
of monks and Buddhists. I don't even think of,
Ooh,
yeah, I go all the way to, where would they get, people need to travel more, don't they?
They need to travel here because here in the US, it's shifting.
Wow.
Brave people are coming forward. So on our yoga magazines, you see full-bodied people, you see people of color. We are
Of
trying
course.
to make
Mm.
that representation because anybody
Mm.
can do yoga. And
Mm.
so really, it
Wow.
felt like an act of rebellion just showing up to class sometimes
Wow.
in my skin. And once I made space for myself, then I had to make space for myself in my own mind, right? So when I would do a twist or a forward fold and a twist, I'd be like, what do I do with all these curves? Where do they go?
Oh,
What do I
wow.
do? And then I would look over at the person next to me and I'd be like, well, Becky doesn't have any problems. She's full into it. So really it's about
Is that
showing.
because, let me ask, is that because they were a lot smaller than you? You felt
They
like
were
that,
smaller. Yeah,
like
they were
the
smaller.
image. Yeah.
Right, right. And then
Oh,
one of my yoga mentors said something really beautiful. He's like, how you show up for yourself is how you show up on your mat. So if you're showing up on your mat and you're doing the work, then you could take that and you can do yoga off of your mat and really go deeper with, one of the limbs of yoga is ahimsa, not causing any harm. And not
mm.
causing harm goes in all directions, physical, mental, for yourself and to others. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, so yoga really, really definitely helped me with awareness and,
Mm.
and doing that deep healing work. Yeah, I'm
So you're
still
saying the
waiting.
yoga, sorry, you saying the yoga practice before you became a practitioner helped also to work through the eating disorder you were having. Yeah?
Absolutely,
Wow, that's
absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So super, super grateful for that. And that sort of segued, I was going through my yoga teacher training, and a lot of the reading material would manifest into more learning opportunities. And so I just followed that, we call it the golden thread of seeking and finding.
Mm.
And so I said yes to yoga, and then I wound up learning more about cranial sacral healing and uh, when we moved up to Wisconsin, I just sort of put a pause on all of that and I focused in on another business. Um, when I was ready to step into the yoga, I just kept saying yes. So here I am. COVID really slowed us down.
Mhm.
And
Naturally.
yeah, and I realized I could take online courses, right? So I was so dependent on location providing me information and
Mhm.
opportunities to learn. So I
Yeah.
thought when I left Chicago, it was all done. And then, of course, most of us have adjusted and
Yeah.
made these changes and keep saying yes and showing up. So I did some online Reiki courses and I did some online hypnosis courses and then life coach courses and intensive hypnosis. So I have all my certifications in those areas and it just feels very exciting. Very exciting.
Nice. So I'm now going to go all the way back and unravel everything you just said, yeah?
Mm,
So I can understand, so we can get to know you a little bit more also in your practitioner work
sure.
and field. So, okay, so you started with yoga and you explained how it really aided and assisted, the eating and other elements you wanted to work on in your personal life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So with the yoga, as you started naturally as a student of yoga, how long were you going to, being a regular client of practicing yoga before you actually started studying it? And how long was the study?
I tend to move a little fast. So I found yoga in college and did a
Hmm.
couple classes here and there. And then I think it was like 5 years into establishing my own practice that I decided I wanted to be a teacher and do the
Oh,
teacher
wow.
training. And the teacher training from start to finish took about a year and a half to get all
That's
the hours in.
really quick.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Is that
I
for
could have
everybody?
gone.
Or was that like
What's
your
that?
own pace? is that a standard time, or is that go at your own pace type of
So
study?
the teacher training was in person, and then we
Mm-hmm.
had an extended period to do our thesis and hand in the thesis. So that portion of it, I definitely took my time with it.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm sure other programs could be much quicker, but yeah, running another business and I think the other part was staying committed and knowing that like it's a worthy journey and it's going to
Mhm.
be
Absolutely.
um, something worthwhile. So yeah.
Okay, so a year and a half. Whilst we're on the topic of yoga, I
Mm.
saw you in these silks that drape
Oh
from the
yeah.
ceiling. I've never had the pleasure of experiencing it. I've seen it before only on
Mm.
television. Tell me, why don't more places have that? I've never been to any establishment and seen it.
Well,
So
let me
why
tell you.
more, tell us about those. And just for
Yeah,
the
so
viewers,
yeah,
if for
that
those
was
who, go ahead, sorry, go on.
sure. No. Sorry. So the aerial yoga piece is another certification that I added on during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why more studios don't have it is because it's expensive. It is so expensive to get, like to build the facility out enough so that it is structurally sound enough to hold
Mm-hmm.
uh, multiple bodies, and
Yeah.
going upside down. And there's some movement, so there's that. The load sort of changes there as
So what do
well.
you call it? Aerial yoga when you so
Aerial
that's when you have
yoga.
to sit. So let me go back a little bit, guys. For those who watch the playback and whoever's trying to get on the live, this is an exclusive today. I can see someone pressing request. Um, so okay, lost trail of thought. Okay, so with the threads, what I'm thinking is, how does it help in terms of aiding, whether it's our posture or our spiritual, like what's the purpose of it? It looks
It,
fascinating, by the way.
it feels so good.
Mhm.
So if anyone has ever tried a inversion table where you sort of get your
I have
ankles locked
never.
in,
I've been told
so
it's amazing.
it can be, yeah. So for most people, what it is going to do is it tracks the spine, so it
Ooh.
creates space between the vertebrae. So if there's any compression, that sort of gets
Mm.
alleviated. Often I joke in class that adjustments are no additional charge, because I can hear people's like spines, like you're literally like getting stretched, and then you're moving your body to be
Awesome.
in alignment. And so I hear a lot of adjustments going on. And it also, certain poses are made more accessible. So
Mm.
for me, if I were to do a shoulder stand in the middle of the room and go into plow, I would struggle. So that would look like,
Wow.
using your core to lift your feet up and then sort of backward fold your legs behind you.
This is all
And
in the silks.
but you could do it in the silks. And when you do it in the
Wow.
silks, then you're holding on, and then there's no compression in the cervical spine, which often some yoga practitioners and teachers, they get nervous about doing shoulder stands in the middle of the room without creating enough space for the neck to lay back. Otherwise, it gets all
Mm.
crunched up, and that over time could be not so good for your spine. So I find that the silks really make certain poses like inversions and going upside down more accessible, um,
Wow.
and more pleasant and a lot more fun. There's lots of giggling that happens in
It looks
classes.
fun. For those who may be watching this playback, on my promo that I posted today, on the slides, you will see what we're talking about now when we say the silks, which is she's actually draped. She sits up. You describe how
It's
it
like
all works.
it's like a
Your,
hammock. So
your,
you're
your job, and you told them about it.
Yeah. So there's anchor points,
Mhm.
and the anchor points are clipped in with carabiners, and tied to the carabiners is a
Mhm.
silk, and the silk has some stretch to it, which is
Mhm.
nice. Um, and essentially, it's like a big hammock. So
Exactly, yeah.
yes, you can climb in there, and I like to start a lot of classes that way. So you get in and you stretch out, and so you're covered in fabric from the top of the head to the end of your toes, and it is a feeling of like being in a little cocoon and all wrapped up.
I'd
Um,
love to try it.
yeah, come on over.
I'll have to ping. Oh wow, it seems amazing. Okay, so in terms of, because you actually own your own studio, don't you?
I do, yes.
How demanding is that in terms of clientele, studio
Yeah,
classes? How
it
demanding is that?
so the beautiful thing about owning a studio is you get to make your own schedule. Um,
Amazing.
yeah, so if you want to make lots and lots and lots of classes, then you can do that. Right now, I'm actually transitioning out of the studio space, and I want to sell the studio business so that I can move more into my hypnosis and Reiki business. So I'm excited for that. Again, more just following that thread, that golden thread of seeking and finding, and that's where it's leading me towards now.
So how long have you been teaching for though in yoga? Because you said you took you a year and a half to complete this
Mm,
course. How long have you been
yeah.
a practitioner for?
Mm. So
And
I've been a teacher since 2013.
oh wow.
And yeah,
Okay.
and so I've been teaching like not full time until 2019 is when I started teaching full time. But
Mhm.
before that, I would just sort of teach here and there, and I enjoyed it. But I
Oh,
was
you get
also a
some
new,
experience. You had quite,
yeah,
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 that's
yeah.
22 now, so you've done well. So now you're like, let's
Yeah.
go into then your Reiki and your hypnosis. Let's go to hypnosis. Well, and you're going to break the myths for us. Remember, we spoke about this last night about
Oh
pre-call,
yes,
yeah?
yes.
The myths about what we think hypnosis is about. So before I go into,
Sure.
my overspill, tell us about what, in your interpretation, because there are other types of people that do different practices within that field. So what type do you do?
Okay. So yes, there's always going to be other styles, and we talked about too, like wanting to be careful about who
Yeah,
you trust doing this deep
hmm
work. But
100%. Yeah.
yeah, so what I could do is I could tell you about the time I was hypnotized. This is
Ooh.
uh before I thought, oh, I could do this. No, this is way before, and it was when I just wanted to
Hmm.
experience it for myself.
Okay.
So I worked with my now mentor. His name's Peter Woodbury,
Hmm.
and I had a long session with him, and it started with a setting an intention. And my
Mm.
intention was very open. I was like, I'm curious, right? That's all it is. I'm curious. And so we talked a little bit, and then he asked me to close my eyes. And this is all by Zoom, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's actually really quite beneficial on Zoom as it is in person, because you get the little earbud in your ear, and you're like, right now I'm laying in my bed. So if you could imagine just being really cozy, and maybe
Oh,
your cat or
wow.
your favorite
Okay.
blanket. So nice and cozy, nice and safe. And what it is it's a guided meditation. So
Okay.
we change our consciousness multiple times during the day without even knowing it.
Yeah.
Most known is before we go to sleep, that moment between, I like to call it between our to-do list or our grocery list,
Oh,
and
wow.
that your dreams, right? There's that sweet little spot
In
where
between.
you're between. Yeah, and
Mhm.
that's my job to get individuals there. So we talk about listening to your breathing or feeling your breath move your body. We talk about imagery, like imagine you're sitting here, you know. But this back to my first experience being hypnotized. I was about, I don't know how long into it, and then I could hear my husband come in the back door.
Oh, wow. Did he really?
Yeah, so he came
Oh,
in through the back door, and I could hear him sort of, move around the kitchen, and then I could feel like my eyes are closed, he got quiet, and I could tell he was in the doorway, and so I was able to say, to my mentor, Peter, my husband is home. I need to let him know what I'm doing.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So I was able to
Okay.
pop out of my experience, open my eyes and say, honey, I'm doing this thing. And he's like, oh, I forgot. And he left. And then Peter was able to bring me right back in.
Let me ask you a question in between
Sure.
you sharing your experience. What is the definition? That obviously we've got Google, but because obviously by the way you would describe it, it's not the ones that probably a lot of us has heard of. So
Sure.
what is the definition of hypnosis? If you're not actually in a different state where you're totally alert and you can do all of that. Because the
Yeah.
hypnosis that I've heard of for years, whether it's on television, documentaries, or random movies, where someone is actually under. So they
Yeah.
couldn't just say, hey, honey, put the kettle on. So I'm wondering, what is your
Sure.
definition or your teaching definition of what hypnosis actually means from where
Yeah.
from your perspective?
Yeah, so it's a change in consciousness, and within that
Mm.
change of consciousness, you are susceptible to suggestions, right? But all hypnosis is actually self hypnosis,
That
which is
makes sense.
the
Mhm.
beautiful thing. So I cue people to tune in, notice that there's a part of you that's really relaxed, and the other part of
Mm.
you could still hear my voice, right? So there's two parts of you that are able to coexist at the same time. So
Mhm.
if it is the part of you that is really relaxed and can still hear me, then you can still follow along and you can still use your words. And if there's anything, if you ever get curious and you want to open your eyes, go ahead and do so. If you need to use the bathroom, that's happened before. Someone's being like held by God and rocked
Mhm.
and they're crying and crying and crying and they're like, I gotta go to the bathroom. Cool, cool, cool. Get up, use the bathroom, come back, and they're right back in there.
Have you ever known anyone, or again, have you ever watched these documentaries or these, la la TV movies that's created from some realities of
Yeah.
people being under, where in some rare cases, and this is why I say, I guess the perception of hypnosis may be a little bit different according to how people practice it.
Sure.
So rare cases where they literally under the person's been able to, literally have sex with them or persuade them to do things they
Yeah.
would never do before. You might even see shows in, these random
Mhm.
countries where someone had no idea of what they were doing because they were hypnotized. So
Yeah, that
obviously you're
sounds,
being hypnotized if you're under some other kind of trance.
yeah, that would be a
Yeah.
great question for my mentor. I've never experienced it. I've never
Yeah.
seen
I'm
it
glad you
before,
haven't.
other than that, that stage hypnotism, right? Where people are walking around clucking like a chicken and all that.
Do you understand? And I believe, I think, do you know
Sure.
what it is as well? I feel that I'm glad that you do the kind of, I guess, other approach. I guess a lot more people like myself would have come to you had it been like that. My perception would have been different from very young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
but
know
so
what
I
I
hope that
mean?
that helps. Yes, I
Mhm.
totally
And
know what you
I
mean.
wouldn't, but like I said to you when I spoke to you yesterday, when you said, have I had it? I said, I would never. Then I was like, well, actually, let me go back on there. I have never. I should never say never. But I do remember a time where I was so petrified to fly or different things like that. And I thought, I need to be on the edge of some kind of despair where there's no hope for me to say, okay, I'm going to do this. Because
Sure.
obviously, all the scare stories and what I see in terms of needing to be in control of my own mind, especially as we're both
Sure.
spiritual, I guess also.
Yes.
So I've never ever heard of anyone going where they're fully in control of their mind. The whole point is for them to be under, where someone can go, voila, you're
Yeah.
healed.
So
Suddenly you stop smoking. Suddenly you've lost weight. Suddenly you have no, what do you call it? Phobias. You hear of these stories. So how are these other people doing these practices?
I don't know. I've never been to them and I don't know.
I'd
I've
love
worked
to
with
know those
people. Yeah,
people.
I
Yeah.
mean, I have worked with people that want to get relief from physical ailments.
Mm-hmm.
Individuals that are wanting to remove or understand emotional things, so that I can help them with. But
Mm-hmm.
this is the difference between. So if you're familiar or have had like talk therapy, right? And you could go
Yeah.
and you could talk through your issues
I've also
for,
studied it as well. So yeah.
yeah, so it can go
Mhm.
on and on and on, and there's so much benefit for it. Um, Whereas my experience with hypnosis is you're experiencing the healing.
Mm-hmm.
You're being guided. So if you set your intention that you want to no longer have the fear of flying, right? The fear, that pain is a beautiful motivator. It
Mm-hmm.
motivates us to do things that we wouldn't normally do to get
Mm-hmm.
relief. So if you wanted, that was your intention to relieve your fear of flying.
Mm-hmm.
So the experiences that you might have when you get in there are
Mm-hmm.
so amazing. I wouldn't be able to tell you what your experience is.
Oh,
You could,
I've done many trips after that, so I clearly conquered that.
oh, it's beautiful. But for
Yeah.
example, let's say you
Mm-hmm.
you did have that, you could get in there and you could I've seen there's many experiences you could have. You could have time with your guides. So your
Mm-hmm.
guides could literally say, we're going to bring you up to clouds, and you experience yourself rising up and being in the clouds,
Mm-hmm.
flying, feeling that freedom of flying, and feel their love and their support.
So,
Um,
tell us more about the guides, because not everybody, when it comes to spirituality,
yes,
spirituality is not one size fits all. We all got a
no,
different rendition, and we all have it's almost like having a individual personality with the creator, if for those who
sure.
believe that. So, for you, and what does it when you say your guides? What does that mean for you?
So there's two answers to that. I didn't
Hmm.
believe in my guides
Hmm.
until hypnosis, and you
Right.
don't have to believe in guides.
Hmm.
Um, And people that
Hmm.
haven't believed in guides or God or whatever,
Hmm.
or past lives, that's another one I didn't believe in.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then you're literally shown. You're shown. So I'm not here to
Who you shown by?
your higher self and it. Listen, I often say that just when things can't get any weirder, they do,
Hmm.
and this is one of them. Um, Time after time after time. Sometimes individuals are shown um, space with past loved ones, and those are their guides. Sometimes people can actually see angels all around them or
Hmm.
energies. Sometimes they can't see anything, but they feel it, and it
Do you
feels
see,
like,
or are you one that just feels it?
yeah, some people just feel it.
Do you
And what
see
they
something? Do you feel and see it, or do you just
sometimes,
feel it? Okay.
sometimes, but the session's not for me. So
Mm. I'm
I
speaking in
make,
general, as you mentioned, guides. I was curious to
yeah.
like when you say guides. Does your guides have names? Do you know how to name your guides or recognize which one is your guide in name? Okay.
No, it doesn't matter to me. Not at this
Okay.
point. It doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Okay.
The only guide that has showed up, which again, I am not, I'm not, Archangel Raphael,
Mm-hmm.
he's my guy. He wasn't before this work.
Okay.
In fact, I would identify angels, prior to this work as being too rigid and conform to like religion.
Okay.
And so I fought that a lot.
Oh,
But
wow.
but I can't deny what I was shown. It's really kind of cool, really cool.
Well, actually, I very much believe in guides. I actually subscribe to
Nice.
guides. I'm all for it. However, when
Hmm.
I'm doing lives, my perception doesn't mean it's the viewers. I'll also expand it so then you can
Absolutely.
express to them what that meant as it's your
Yeah.
statement. I don't
Yeah.
want to overspill from my perspective, but
Absolutely.
as you said, I'm looking at you as well, and I'm observing also your energy that you're sharing, and I can definitely see it's a personal testimony experience. Sometimes words can't even fathom your journey. Am I right?
You can't because
Yeah.
it's the difference between talking about it and doing hypnosis
Yeah.
is that you would experience it.
Mhm.
And often when people start
Oh, by
having
the way,
their
I'm speaking in general. I wasn't just, speaking on hypnosis. Yeah. Yeah, I
absolutely,
said that.
yeah. And I think that that's the beauty of it. Someone once
Mhm.
said to me, um, because I'm healing a lot of trauma around religion, organized religion, as I go through
Okay.
this. So it's quite
Okay.
triggering because, I don't believe in certain things. And then when you experience it, you're like, well, now
Come on
what
now,
do I
girl.
do? Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? I love that you say that. And I find you, ever since even having our pre-talk that did with you yesterday, I find you to be quite a transparent soul. And, even the
Mm,
question you answered earlier about what you change about yourself,
yeah.
the honesty. And so I love that you would say, actually, didn't even believe in all of that, but here's the facts because I've lived it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I
no
know.
one can challenge your facts, girl. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
love that about you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
I
You know,
agree.
not
So I resonate. I resonate with a lot of things that you've said already today. Yeah,
because there is so much that we don't know. There's
exactly.
just so much that we don't know. And
Hmm.
if we could keep our minds open with, I really strongly believe in protecting your energy, praying
Hmm.
in, as you get curious, like ask for your higher self to be with you and your guides,
Yes.
because there is a lot out there, and it's all for teaching and all for growth. And
Yes.
we have so many lifetimes to figure all of this out. So many, and again, I didn't believe in this, but
Neither
prior
did
to the
I.
work.
Hmm.
And so there's been a lot of like, okay, I got to think on that. I have to process it. But there's some things that you can't think through. You have to feel through,
Come on now, girl. Let it be heard.
right? And
Yes.
society doesn't,
Yes.
as a whole, does not want you dropping into your power. Your power.
Mm. Hmm.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
we have to.
I sense that you're very deeply spiritual.
I am now.
I love the way you've done that. That should have been a sitcom or advert. I love that. Like, I don't know how it happened, but it happened. Yeah.
Here.
But I love that because what that tells me as an observant spirit myself, again, I mentioned to you yesterday, I briefed you and I said, I'm very cynical with many things that I see on social media because right now, and I say this on so many of my lives, 80% of people I see are witches. Never done a spell in their life, by the way, but on their profile it says witch.
Yeah,
Yeah, they are card readers, just about
yeah,
can shuffle a card pack, mind you. They went to a
right.
college to learn how to do it. Oh, they went to witch college as well, by the way, to learn how to fly on the broom. And they charge their crystals because
Yeah.
it's a mimicking thing going on. I don't know if you can see what I'm saying to
So,
you. Hear me
yeah,
out. Hear
no,
me
I,
out.
yeah,
I'm not saying everybody is the same, but I'm saying
yeah,
I can acknowledge that there is definitely a trending happening. And I say to
yeah,
people,
yeah.
go
Go
on.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. And I say, and I look, and I can always often tell the real experience to those who just thought, oh, it's like buying the latest Nike. I can do this today.
Right.
It's quite sad in a way because it's almost like because social media is so influential.
Yeah,
I've an example of said I've never bought a crystal in my life, and
yeah,
people assume I would because she's spiritual.
yeah.
Now, I was bought crystals once, and I used to put in my bath with my, herb bath and everything else. But
Nice.
I've never bought a crystal. However, for the last 3 years, every time I go past these beautiful shops that sell naturalistic stuff and sage and whatever, there's the black one. You probably know the name of it. It's a black, really shiny rock. That Yeah,
Ooh.
I have to find the name of. See, I don't even know the names of them. That's how much I'm not connected to it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there's the
But you
rock
follow
that
the energy.
it keeps, and I keep saying, "What's that one called again?" Everywhere I go, what? So do you see that as an example? It's naturally calling me, but I've never been
Yeah,
interested in it. So if I
sure.
buy it, it'll be because I genuinely, 10,000 years later, decided, oh, something about that one. Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm so not into the trending. And I say to people, when we have all these labels, we're taking all these trends, it does come a responsibility and it opens portholes. We must be mindful.
Yes. So I love this because I like to
Mhm.
think of it as first of all, a lot of people are waking up right now and they're in
That as
pain.
well. Hmm.
And they might not have the support they need. And so if
Hmm.
surrounding themselves with these crystals and cards, which are very powerful, if it if it helps them, like it helped me, like it was almost like a gateway drug to the hard
Mhm.
stuff, right? Because it built my confidence up. It's like, ooh, how does this one make me feel? Okay, I tune in.
How did you get into the card? Let's touch on that for a second, because as you're part of that as well, how
Sure.
did you? Because it's like I said, it seems to be a whole. If someone's into one thing, they into all the other things that come with it. So I'm trying to work out, like for you, how
Yeah,
did you? So it was a gateway for you. It helped you, which I totally accept and respect. How
sure.
did you first get into the card? Was it something you saw? Was it social media? How did you first become attracted to it? What was it for you?
So the cards, the crystals, just like you said, like, ooh, that amethyst over there. I don't know why, but I
Is it a
can't.
black one? No, that's not the black one. Is that the black one?
The amethyst is what called to me.
Ah,
I'm like, yes, it's purple. It feels so good, you know,
ah.
and yeah, so that's the beginning, I think I would hope is
Mm,
it's tuning in. It's not what
mm,
social media is telling you to get, right? There
mhm.
are so many different kinds of crystals, different cuts,
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
ways to incorporate them in your life. Same
Mhm.
with cards. Cards,
Yeah.
you need to find the artwork that resonates with you. Otherwise, I still go to my little
So
flip book and I'm
what
like,
was it when it came to? I mean, I'm intrigued to find through this. When it came to the cards on your journey, how did you? Where did you first see it? Where did you first stumble upon? Oh, I want to actually be a part of this.
I was 11. I was
Oh,
11, pre
okay, that makes
Instagram.
sense.
And a friend of mine had a psychic over, and she brought her tarot cards, and it was something she said about, it intrigued me. There's something intriguing about it, you know. And then after that, it was after college, trying to find the answers. And
So
so
what
I was,
was you seeking? Was in your life at that time? Because that's often also something was there something within you or your life, or whether it's on a soulful perspective or whatever it is, that you were seeking something, and
yes,
therefore,
yes.
okay, that's
Yeah,
that's with
so
that's with a lot of people why they end up with all that as well. Okay, that's
yes,
interesting.
yeah, I was seeking an answer, and
Yeah.
the difference between um, so there are psychics that do tarot readings, and so
Hmm.
when they get a card, it's almost like confirmation as to what they're already getting as a download. So
Hmm.
the individual that actually I've worked with for years and I highly recommend is
Hmm.
Tanya
Hmm.
Gonzalez. She was rated like number 3 psychic in the world, and she is a
Hmm.
friend. And she really, when she taught me how to read tarot, she told me to put that little book away, put it away, find the cards that resonate with you, the artwork. And what is it telling you? Again, stop asking other people. Tune in,
Hmm.
tune in. What is it telling you? And I think whether it's crystals, cards, pendulum readings, hypnosis, we're all being asked to tune in and
That makes
get,
sense. Tune in,
yeah,
absolutely.
tune
Yeah.
in because we're getting so much messaging that
Hmm.
it's so
Hmm.
easy to numb out. I know I numb out. And then I want to turn to my friend and be like, what should I do?
Hmm.
Come on now, you know. You know what to
Yeah,
do, but you just don't
yeah,
want to do it because
mhm,
it's so hard. It's
yeah.
so hard. It, growth is,
So for you, you were searching for something, and that came in as a gateway of actually aiding you and supporting you.
yes, yes.
Hmm.
So I hope that the individuals that are doing it on Instagram, I love that they're mainstreaming it enough so that um, that it doesn't get diluted, but perhaps it makes others braver to step into it because there's a lot of stigma around these
Hmm.
things. And
Hmm.
we'll see where it goes. But tuning
That's
in is so
interesting.
important.
I'll say this quickly before we go on to your next part of what you do and the Reiki and everything. And I've said this to a couple of people that's been on here over the last 2 years. what I find amazing is, although we know in different cultures and different parts of the world, you know, these things, many things have been ancient Egypt so many years ago.
Mm,
Sometimes it's not even, it seems like it's a new thing, but we know it's not, you know, cards and
right.
crystals and phones or whatever people use. But what I find really remarkable is how much in this day and age people rely on it. Whereas
Mm,
coming from a cultural perspective, the person in the village didn't need anything.
mm.
It would just be, and you're told.
Connected.
In this day and age,
Connected.
they went to which school? And I do find it, I do kind of chuckle, to be honest, because again, I say culturally, we don't, you know, if you ask many people on your live or other people's
Sure.
pages, whether you're Aborigine, whether you're from Hawaii, whether you're from especially India and
Yeah.
Pakistan and, you know, Caribbean, Africa, we don't do any of this reading
Right.
cards, going to a college. It's actually
Mhm.
naturally, truly, spiritually ancestral. And
Yes.
I find that, so
It's
I'm trying to work
beautiful.
out what's happening, like, or is that
So,
just, you know, why are we
yes.
needing all these aids
We,
now to say that we're psychic or whatever it is? What's changing in the waters? What's going on?
yeah. So my perspective is that we've
Mm,
been systematically removed from our people, right?
yeah,
So,
great
right.
answer.
Yeah,
Mm,
there's power in numbers, and
yeah,
throughout the ages we've been persecuted um
yes.
for the strengths, for differences.
Mm,
And so that was part of the plan, right? So if you have
yeah,
this
yeah,
village and you slowly they move away because there's no healthcare, education,
yeah.
food, support, that was by plan.
Mm,
Or if you were taken from it, or if you're burned at the stake, or if you're.
mm,
So now here we are, we're trying to live as these individuals, which is
mm.
beautiful, but we've lost that connection, that information that is given to each other when we're in community. It's gotten
Yeah, the
so much
telepathy, the this,
so.
the that, the
Yeah.
naturalism, not, you know, any of these things. It's a bit like it's been, you know, far back now, where people could just stand somewhere and say, go to the east, it's that
Yeah.
way. Right now, that my sat nav, I'm lost going down the road.
Yeah.
Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, this is
Yeah.
how real people were. But I feel like now there's
Yes.
so many aids, you know, that is for everyone. And back in those days, even not been so much long ago, it wasn't everyone, it was for selected people that were chosen. And now I find that
Mm.
people are choosing it. It did not choose them. That's when it
But
starts
no,
to get,
you
do you
know,
know what I mean?
yeah, I
Mm.
feel that if the world is changing quite a
Oh,
bit,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hurting. And I think
Mm.
people are waking up faster than ever before. And I feel that
Great answer. Great
there
answer.
might be
Mm.
people that are just sort of hitching their,
Mm.
wagon to the star. And
Experimenting.
yeah, and
Mm.
that's fine. But for
Mm.
those that are waking up and they're struggling and they're
Mm.
looking for community and there's a lot of shadow work, that's how I kind of find the healers that I like to work with,
Mm.
is if they can be transparent about the shadow work, because in the beginning I was
Mm.
like, shadow what? It's all
Yeah.
peace and love and light. What are you talking about? Just
Peace, love, light,
manifest
and
something
darkness. Yeah.
sweeter. And then now
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this is hard work. It's
Yeah.
hard work.
Yeah.
And um and this is what our soul has been asking for. And
Mm.
so I guess if you're looking for people and you want and you're like, is this person for real, or where they are on their journey? I look for the people that have gone through the muck,
Yeah.
and it's made their
Mm.
faith in whatever it is stronger.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it
I love
is.
what you say. I love what you're saying because what you're doing is giving a whole different valued perspective to what I'm saying to you. Your
Mm,
responses for me are so valued because I'm saying, well, it's a big clang and everyone's following the same. And I know culturally, it can't be a trend with this kind of work world. It's not a trend. You're either chosen or you choose it. It's, I mean,
Yes.
I'm speaking of healing. Again, everyone's a healer. They can't heal anything really, but it's so much of a trend. I guess because I am from the Caribbean, where people, whether you're African, Indian, and there
Yes.
is a big difference in someone saying, I touched your knee and you're healed. I touched your womb and you can have children. And so because a lot of these words are thrown around, I'm also cynical. I'm thinking, well, where is this large trend coming from? But I also love you saying, well, actually, people are vastly tuning in like this nowadays. And I can see it, but I love the fact that you feel that way. And it allows me to be broader now and have a bit more
Yeah.
compassion. So
So,
thank
so
you for
I
that.
love, yeah, I love your perspective as well, because I know
Yeah.
healers that do that kind of work.
Real healers.
And
I really call them real actual healers. Yeah.
right. And then also it's like, do they always have those gifts? And
Mm.
what's their journey like as well?
Oh,
And,
often
and like, so
painful.
yeah, there's like
Mm.
different levels of everything, right?
Yeah.
So you can go get
Mm.
you can go get your coffee at the gas station, or you can go to your favorite coffee house. If there's a difference between them,
Yeah.
and the differences are there for whatever reason.
Mm.
It might not have anything to do with experience. It might not. It might be the willingness to not do the work themselves.
Yeah.
But I do qigong, and my qigong teacher, uh, he says all the time, like, if you do your work, you become the medicine. You become the medicine, because the more you can clear out, the more vibration, the higher the vibration you can
Yes.
hold.
I believe that. I believe
Yeah.
that. Mm.
And it takes work. It is.
Mm.
I
Mm.
honestly, if I would have known that this is
Mm.
what it would look like, I don't think I would have signed up.
Well, I'm glad you did. I'm glad,
Thank you.
I saw a quote that changed things for me about a year ago. And it said, a true healer aids you to heal yourself. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay now. Okay now. You know what I mean? It's a bit like when I go to my Chinese, because an accident I had regular massages, etc. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, every time I'm here, you tell me how to, trigger my own points. I mean, they always say, do this, do that. And they tell me, I'm paying them a fee, but they're telling me how to actually remedy yourself.
Yes. 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 There
And I
should be
find that
there.
amazing. Yeah. The
Yeah.
healers will show you how to heal thyself. Brilliant.
Yes. Yes. I want to be able to pay my bills and, feel
Oh, yeah.
prosperous.
Yeah.
And I know that there is no harm. I even say it at the end of my
Mhm.
script of hypnosis
Yeah.
is, the way. It is safe.
Mm.
It is easy. Follow the
Mhm.
breathing. Come to the light. Come to the door. And I
Amazing.
encourage people all the time. You know the way now. The door is open. So when you fall asleep and you want to go there, pray yourself in, follow your breathing, follow the light, come to the door, and be willing for that experience. But enlightenment, this journey is meant for everybody. It's meant for
Come on.
everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that
Mhm.
accessibility, I love that. Like,
In
let them
different
show
ways.
you how to be your
Mm.
own healer for sure.
Yeah. In your own
Hmm.
way. I mean, it doesn't mean they won't come to you or go to a doctor or go to a nurse, but it's the fact sometimes people want that guide, whether it's your voice, your vibration, your whatever you
Yes,
give them. But it's
yes.
a beautiful thing. Okay, so I love your responses today. It's enlightening. I love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Oh, I
Because
appreciate you.
I do because it tells me. Remember, it's I will push the boundaries because I want people to also hear your perspective as opposed to saying,
Yeah.
okay, great, 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 you know.
Yes.
But I can hear that um, you're definitely not a part of the typical trend following. You definitely have your own
Mm.
spiritual stability, and that's what your response has told me.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I
Yeah,
also feel like,
100%.
just like as if you were looking for another practitioner or a doctor and anything
Mhm.
else, you would want to find the right fit. So perhaps
Yeah.
to some, I'm not what they're looking for, and
Mhm.
that's beautiful. But if I can
Yeah.
open people's minds enough to be like, well, I
Mhm.
heard, and maybe I'll be open. And you know what the universe
Mhm.
does? The universe said, she or he or they are open.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put the perfect soul right in their path, the perfect
Mhm.
crystal, the perfect experience, whatever it is that
Mhm.
you're calling in. And
Mhm.
that's the biggest thing. So I pray that everyone could just stay open-minded to what the
Yeah.
next thing is for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before I go on to the next part, let's go to a few comments. I haven't even got my typical reading glasses on. But just to emphasize, I definitely know it's just between knowing and belief. I always say
Yeah.
that you are on your own defined spiritual journey. This is not, ooh, Instagram said, ooh, I'm going to do that today. That's not the vibe I
Oh
get from you
no.
at all. Yeah,
No.
do you know
And
what I mean? And I love
yes,
that. And you started this
yes,
journey long time ago.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
So,
that.
yeah.
Yes.
Let's go to a few comments or questions. Or
Mhm.
I don't have my typical specs on. I've got so many different handbags that I chop and change daily, and different glasses that sometimes, mostly I have them, but they're my extra vision with. These are not my reading glasses. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. Hi, Iva and Amor. Yeah. Somebody likes my glasses. Well, thank you.
They are very nice.
Thank you. I have a drawer full of all Doberman asked me, yeah? Thank you. Let me see. I don't know what's going on there. Let me see. Why did I not bring my reading glasses today? Okay, let's see. If any of you guys so far have any particular questions to ask this beautiful lady, please feel free and we'll always create space. Hello, Tori. Let me see. I find this conversation really interesting because I bet you didn't think I was going to take it down this road, did you?
No, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, hey, why be the typical, All right. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Hello to you. Uh, yes, we were talking about when we speak about our own spiritual journey. Someone's left a comment down there. Is that the bit you caught on? Yeah. And the
Mm.
topic, to answer your question, is hypnosis, yoga, Reiki, and just healing. And so, as opposed to just talking about, the work field, it's nice to kind of personalize it because not everyone's the same. Not everyone's journey has been the same. And I feel like for me, if I was in your country, I'd come and pop in and see your studio, and join
Sure.
your silk session because I like your I think you're quite I think even in terms of spirituality and just a general woman and being, I think you're quite interesting. And I feel like you're not a spiritual pushover by any means. I think you can stand up for yourself. Yeah.
Thank
So I
you.
like I like people like that. And so especially your classes and seeing your page, it's really interesting. So yeah,
Mm.
the topics, I mean, when you're talking to someone who's just into yoga and a Reiki and they've done it as a career or a hobby and they just do it, it's very different to someone who is spiritual as well. And that's, you confirm that to you. And that's why I've
Sure.
gone down that little
Sure.
bit of a road with you because I know you understand the link, you understand the vibration of where I'm going.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's that. How about, where would you want to go next in terms of a Reiki? Tell us
Sure. We could.
about that. Maybe another time you can actually pop on and demonstrate for us. I know it was short notice when I mentioned it
Mm.
to you, but tell us how you got into a Reiki, although we know it's all connected, I guess, in the healing realm of well-being, which is brilliant
Mhm.
that you've done all of that. So tell us a bit about
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
interest in a Reiki. That's another positive, popular one that people are doing now as well. Yeah.
Sure. So my first Reiki session that I had done, I arrived and I thought, oh, I'm just gonna close my eyes. It's gonna be so relaxing. And each Reiki practitioner is different.
Okay.
Um, but this Reiki practitioner started telling me all this stuff, and it was stuff that nobody would really know, and it just really
Oh,
it.
about you, your
Yes,
journey. Oh, wow.
yes, yes. She said, "Oh, I see like this little baby wrapped around your leg. Did
She's
you
a
have
medium. She's a medium. She's not just a
Yeah,
regular Reiki. She's got gifts,
I
clearly.
guess so." And she's like, "'Cause I
Yeah.
see like this little baby wrapped around your leg, just oh, mama." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm
Oh,
miscarried." And she's like, "Well, that baby's
oh
always with
my
you." And
God.
I know,
Oh.
and so I would say that um
Mhm.
that sort of opened up my eyes to the possibility of being open to being a conduit to energy. And in our area, because Reiki is prevalent right now, I think there are a
Mhm.
lot of practitioners
Yeah.
that aren't doing Reiki. Um, Reiki is something that it's your grounding energy. You're bringing light down through you.
Yeah. Hmm.
There are symbols that I learned that sometimes I use, sometimes I don't.
Okay.
And so when you talk about Reiki, and when I hear other people talking about Reiki, um, the more I do it, the more I question. You know, there's a lot of us healers walking around wanting to know, like, who am I? What am I doing? Like, am I
Mhm.
shaman? Do I just do Reiki? What am I?
Mhm.
You know, this is part of the
That's a fact.
awakening.
That's actually a whole fact.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is, I believe that this is part of the awakening. Stuff is happening. We're waking
Yes,
up.
girl.
We're able to see more, and so we want to
Mhm.
label what it is. So then
Yes.
we
Yes.
look outside and we're like, well, what are the Japanese doing? What are they doing?
Yes.
What's that culture doing? What's this
Yes.
culture
Yes.
doing? Yeah. So I think
Yes.
a lot of it is our ego wanting to identify what we're doing and what we're seeing,
Mhm.
so that we can um, be okay doing it. And there's the other part of us that
Yeah.
wants to label it so we can market it.
And understand and accept the
Yes.
self-acceptance. Yeah.
But
I
I'm
can
telling you
relate. I can so relate everything you just said.
the
Yeah.
more I do Reiki, the more I
Mm.
realize like I do not understand what is happening. I don't understand what I'm seeing. I feel it. I use it. I respect it. But it goes beyond Reiki.
Interesting. So how long have you been how long did it take, first of all, for you to become a qualified and being doing a Reiki? And was that all online? Did you have to do anything in person in terms of the study?
There's two levels and then a Reiki master, and it's misleading. Reiki master doesn't mean you are a master of Reiki. It means that you're allowing the energy to master you.
Ooh, no one's
Yeah.
told me that before. Okay.
Yes. And
Okay.
honestly, I did the first in person.
Mm.
I've done the first level twice. The first I did in person, it resonated with me. Then COVID happened and I did the rest
Mhm.
online. And you could do it as quickly as you wanted, right? There's some people that are, there's some people that are doing Reiki so fast they don't know the symbols,
Oh,
right?
wow.
They're just giving it to them. They're attuning them with the symbols in there, but there's no practice. So when I did it online, I had to practice on myself. I couldn't even practice
Oh,
on my
wow.
plants or my pet or my child or my family. I had to practice on myself. Again, tuning in. What does it feel like? Um,
That's amazing. Let me say, actually, one of my previous guest speakers,
mm,
and someone who'll be frequently featuring is a gentleman called Nigel, and he just said that Reiki is an ancient practice, and actually, interestingly enough, he's actually very much a medium, and all the stuff that we spoke about,
beautiful,
and so
beautiful.
much more. Yeah.
Yeah,
So nice to have
it,
you here with us, Nigel.
hi.
Yeah.
It is so ancient. And what I'm learning when I do hypnosis is that we've had lives of power, great, great power.
Mm.
And, you know, in this life, can we not be afraid of our power? Can we step
Yeah, I
into it?
am very much
Yeah,
so.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I love it so much.
Should we be? What's your thoughts? Should we be?
Should we be afraid of the power?
Yeah,
No,
of our power. We shouldn't, should we?
no, because it's
Do,
all one. It's
do
all
you
one.
do you think that fear, depending on, okay, let's say for an example, because everyone's level and power is so individual. So maybe yours may be touching and then healing. Somebody else may be just, being the greatest midwife, but your supernatural power you are as a midwife, whatever gives some powers or perception we have of it. But what
Mm.
if your abilities is not like your peers, your families, or whatever? You might feel like, oh, but actually that is your gift and homing into that. But I guess it's probably why we are afraid, depending on what your gift is.
Oh gosh,
You
we're so
know?
afraid for so many reasons. Again, it goes
Yeah.
back to being bullied or persecuted like in this life. But,
Oh,
I was
wow.
shown
Yeah.
a past life where I was burned at the stake. And
Wow.
we
Really?
each, oh yes, we each hold this trauma inside of ourselves. And our job is to remember that it's not real. Like this oneness, this
Mm.
love, this oneness um, is on the other side of the shadow work. Um,
Mm.
and we can't just wish away the shadow work. It doesn't work. It'll keep
Mm.
it'll keep presenting itself over and over and
Oh,
over
yeah.
again.
Yes,
And the
it will.
clearer, yeah, and the clearer, the more spiritual we get, the
Mhm.
darker things can be as well. Yes, I see
Mhm.
that ear burn twice in a past life. Oh, I just got goosebumps.
If
I'm
you
sorry,
want
it was
to,
so cold.
can I just say, if you want to have, just going to put it out there, a conversation with someone in depth about past lives, it's with this gentleman called Nigel. Just putting it out there.
Ooh,
And you
I
can
love
go
it.
head to head because
Let's
he
connect.
will actually talk you through all your past life. That's part of his gift.
Uh, so
Yeah.
that is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
When I one of my intentions when I was being hypnotized was I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to release my anxiety. I went
Mm-hmm.
into it and I was shown that we were a village of women. And so here's the thing, like I could speak the words, I could tell you the experience, but in my mind, I was in it.
Yeah.
I could feel
Wow.
myself being burned. I could, the anxiety that I felt in my
Is
chest
that
was
during
actually
your
this,
hypnosis session?
Mhm. was actually the smoke inhalation. The
Oh,
and in
got
that life,
goosebumps.
I know, and in that life, I refused to scream and give the people the validation that they were hurting me. And so that anxiety was in me. Can you imagine? Like that, that constant, like,
You literally felt it.
yes,
Wow.
yes, yes, yes. And so my body, by remembering and by experiencing it, it was so traumatic. My guides took me out of it afterwards and they
Mm-hmm.
showed me why I was being shown it. They showed me how to heal the physical wounds. They showed me
Mm-hmm.
so much. But the point is that it helped me release the trauma from my body.
Wow, that was an experience.
Yeah,
Mm.
and
Was you
I
relaxed? I mean, was you obviously you went into that and you were willing, you was a willing participant in that. Was you scared at any point when you was having these experiences? Although you had the anxiety, did you
oh,
feel fear?
absolutely. I was
Yeah.
waiting for the person that was guiding me through to pull me out. So there's other
Ooh, yeah.
practitioners that'll be like, "Oh, she's in pain, let's pull her out." But the way we do it, the way I was trained, is that
Hmm.
your higher self and your guides know exactly how much you can tolerate,
Yeah.
that you're always protected, and so I was taken as far as I could go so that I can understand the pain that people are
Hmm.
going through in this life, so that I can respect the pain I went through in that life.
Wow.
And the guide showed me exactly how much we're capable of when we embrace our power, and that
Yeah.
it is an illusion, because when
Mm.
you're on the other side of that, it's a, it's just, I don't know. I don't want to sound all like spiritual, light
No,
love
no,
stuff,
actually,
but
you know what? Just be. Who cares what you sound like? Just
it
be.
is just so,
I
there's
need to know.
nothing like that space between lives where you're reminded, like you go home and you're with your people. Like imagine like the biggest homecoming,
Oh.
but it with so much authenticity. Um,
Mm.
I've had people say, like, I know I was loved, but I never
Mm.
felt that much love in all my life.
Wow. And this is
And
during
when
this experience.
it was another experience where they were telling me, as
Oh,
they're being
wow.
held by God and just rocked by God, I'm like, I don't know if I
Wow.
believe in God, but here's this person that's being like, that's their experience. And so what I do is I witness.
Mhm.
I try to witness over and over and over again and be open because there's so much we don't know.
That's
And
amazing. That's
yeah.
amazing testimony. How amazing.
Mm.
I'm always in awe of conversations of spirituality. You asked me what my favorite talk was.
Yes,
Spirituality, the
yes.
fascination of people and souls and journey. It's my favorite topic because it's
Uh,
not superficial. It's gone past the ego at this point. You know what I mean? I
I
love.
know it. Yes. And that's what I pray for every day. So I'd go past that
Mhm,
ego.
mhm,
Um, I make
mhm.
terrible small talk. I'm not good at small talk anymore because I'm like, but what
It's
about
banter.
this?
That's banter. It's a part of the
Yes,
banter. There's a time and a place for that, and there's also a set of people that works for. You know what I mean?
it
But there's
does.
times
It
when I
does.
can see that you are very capable of having layers of deep conversations in the right crowd of people. So,
Yeah.
me and you be going out shopping, buying our Palo Santo sticks and sage, and having you're capable of that. So I don't think we should. Someone once said to me, he was a life coach also, and he said to me, "Why are people always trying to put away the ego? So there's a place for that." And I was
Mm.
like, because we're always like ego, 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 and we're kind of taught to kind of like, oh, get rid of it all. But is there time for that? Could be in the bedroom, could be on stage in the theater. No time for that. Hey, I'm gonna be humble in the bedroom. I'm freaking superwoman in the bedroom, girl. Yeah. Hello.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
although
Hmm.
we're going to have a spiritual exchange, I'm still fully my ego, and there's a
Yes.
time and a place for it. Yeah, yeah. Let's check out some more comments before we slowly wind down. Let me, let's take these off because these are not helping me to read when I need to. Where are you? The comments are sometimes a little bit naughty. Where have you gone? Okay. Okay, so Nigel was saying, okay, burned twice in a past life, once in Japan. Wow.
Mm.
And once in Salem, okay, how do you find out about your past life? Well, maybe this beautiful lady can give you some remedies, but also in terms of past life, there's also a gentleman, and that's what he specializes in,
Mhm.
King Nigel, who's on the live. If you leave a comment or come to actually go to my inbox after this live, I can put you in touch with Nigel, who actually does readings and talks you through your past life. So if you want to be guided on that, Nigel can also do that. But Pam can also give you another avenue if you have a suggestion too. Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
So you can do that. Oh, he's already done that. He's already hooked himself up. He's networking right now on this live.
Good, good.
Now that you've hooked up, you've done it. Okay. So just to answer that, just from your perspective, um, where someone on the live asking, how could you discover your past life? Do you have any suggestions that you could, from your perspective,
Yeah, so
how
it
someone
comes
can get
down
in touch with that
to
side of them? Yeah.
hi. It comes down to intention.
Okay.
And we also place it when we start the session and we pray in. We set the intention and we place it on the table, so to speak, for the intention or something better, something that's in your
Mhm.
highest, purpose. That's going to be exactly
Mhm.
what you need for your growth right
Mhm.
now. And so that's why some people have past life regressions. They see their past lives. Some people see future lives,
Wow.
um, and some people have time with loved ones. Some people have time with their guides. Some people
Wow.
go to outer space and they literally like touch the universe and play with the matrix. There's so many. It is what I'm
Wow.
saying. It gets weird and it is so inspiring. It's so inspiring that
It's
we're not
actually really
limited.
exciting, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow.
intention, it comes down to intention of finding the right person to work with, whether it be hypnosis or someone like your previous guest who, wants to work with you on that sort of thing. And yeah.
Nice. Well, before we slowly close this live, you mentioned that I know you said you're closing your studio and
Hmm.
you're focusing now on your other alternative business. Would you like to share
Hmm.
what that is? Are you ready to announce what your other business roles are going to be, or your second new business you've opened?
Sure. Yes. So first of all,
Tell us a bit about that.
I also have a chocolate candy business called Mayana Chocolate. Maybe some of you might know of it. Mayana Chocolate. So that's my first business with my husband.
How
And
long have you
then,
had that for?
oh gosh, since 2008.
Oh,
2008. So we
wow.
started in Chicago, and so we ship
Amazing.
worldwide, and it's a lot of fun. So there's that.
Wow.
And then as I wind down the yoga piece, I am doing sessions by Zoom and also in person here in Wisconsin. And I do hypnosis. And then once you get to the point where you're having your experience, I check in with your guides and I, see like, is there any energy or grounding that needs to happen? Often, um, individuals' guides tell me to. I had one person's guide say, "Girl, sit down and do Reiki on your own self. We got her."
Oh,
Yeah, so sometimes I do Reiki, sometimes I don't. But yeah. So that's by Zoom and in person, and I'm just so excited. I feel like it's going to help so many people, and that's really what I desire is to open people's minds, get them on their journey, or help them stay on their journey. And if I get to
amazing.
be even a small piece of that, I consider myself quite happy, and I am very honored to do that.
Amazing. You've kind of answered a little bit of what I was going to ask you as one of your
Mm,
second to last questions, which is ultimately, why is hypnosis and yoga and Reiki and is it Qigong and all these things? What would you say in a few words why people, could and ought to be open to, adapting this and incorporating this into their lifestyles? What would you say? The ultimate benefit would be mind, body, spirit,
right.
physical. What would you
So
say?
what I would say is what is what you're doing now working, right?
Ah,
Is what you're
mm,
doing working? If it's working, great, keep doing it. If it's
mhm,
not and you're feeling stuck, then you
mhm,
you you need to introduce new things. You need to introduce new
yeah,
practices. Look for the practice that resonates with you. Like you said
yeah,
before, it finds you, right? That crystal finds you.
mm,
The energy finds you.
mhm,
If you're probably listening to this right now, it's found you. And
yeah,
have faith and trust in that, because otherwise the pain that you're feeling isn't as productive as it could be in your healing journey.
mm.
So reach
That's
out.
well, well said.
Yeah.
Well said. Well, your very last question of the night is, before I finally let you go, is first of all, thank you so much for sharing elements of your world, your spirit, your soul, your profession, and so much more today on this live. How did you find your experience on Free Flame Thoughts? What are your afterthoughts?
Oh, I loved it. I love connecting with you.
Thank you.
I love just sharing and listening to your questions, and it helps me um, hear different perspectives as to how things are being perceived. And I think the
Mhm,
more that we connect with each other, the
mhm.
stronger our community gets. So I appreciate you for inviting me
Thank
here to be a
you.
part of this community.
Thank you.
Mm,
Well, you are, for me, a go-getter. I think if I
mm,
speak to you in another 2 years, you're going to be like, well, by the way, you know what? I've got a master's in this. I just, I was bored. I just thought I would do it. That's amazing. So keep being you. And
thank
you're so locked in to the path that's found you, that you embrace, that I think no matter whether it was your husband, your mother, your father, your friend, your neighbor, you wouldn't bat an eyelid. You're so locked into your
you.
spirit that's guiding you. And I know you're safe with that. You cannot be
Thank you.
shaken because you're so locked into your spirit guide, not what he said, she says, the cat next door. And that is why I know that you're real on your journey. And I
Thank
wish you so much love, peace, and more
thank
business success.
you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Right back at you.
Oh, peace and love. Namaste. And I hope to speak to you again in the near future. Take
Sounds
care.
good.
Feel free to exit.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Oh, that was nice. I love having different people on this live from different perspective and different walks of life and different professions. What a lovely spirit. What a lovely, lovely, lovely spirit. I hope you guys enjoyed watching that. And for those who missed it, I hope you enjoy the playback. Next week, we have new guest speakers. And if anyone's watching this now and you'd like to jump on or jump back on, if you've been a previous guest, let me know. I'll schedule you in and we can have a new free flow on any topic that you like. Because remember, any topic goes as long as it flows. See you soon.